Hello, this is Steven and we're back with another Batman 66 episode review. Today, we'll be reviewing the episode Barbecue Batman, the part 2, and sadly, the minstrel's first and sadly last time outing in the 66 TV show. So let's get into it. In the previous episode, Batman and Robin are going up against the minstrel, a villain that's fully formed and has completely come out of the woodworks. He has captured Batman and Robin and has tied them to this sonar radar grill, which is essentially barbecuing them to death. Essentially, they are being roasted alive, which is a pretty gruesome way to go, and is arguably one of the most iconic death traps of the series. We then do the usual opening credits, and then we get back to the mayhem. Minstrel is doing a few more songs until an explosion happened, courtesy of the bat gadgets Batman left on the floor, to cause the minstrel and his men to leave. When they realize that they were meant to be led away, they quickly come back, only to reveal that Batman and Robin have managed to get their way out of the death trap. This then causes a complete bat fight that results in the minstrel making his escape. However, even though the minstrel gets away and the henchmen secretly start sneaking away, Batman, by using his charm, plants a bug on the minstrel's girl. Just as that is happening, we cut back to Police Commissioner Gordon's office, where, whilst they're waiting for Batman to call, Chief O'Hara starts to point out that Batman might be in league with the minstrel. Gordon, of course, denies this, and a shouting match between the two commences, which I kind of admit, for Chief O'Hara to call Batman, selling Batman out like that, kind of comes out of left field. Anyway, just as the argument gets more intense, Batman calls and informs him of everything that has happened, and hangs up. Immediately, as that happens, the two kind of reconcile, but Gordon gives him a firm warning to never do that again. We then cut to Batman essentially listening in on the bug with where the minstrel is, and we find out that the minstrel is pretty sour. He's pretty angry at how everything has turned out, as he doesn't like to lose. Octavia, the minstrel's girlfriend, comes in with the bug still in her handbag and not knowing, comes in, and a nice conversation between the two commence. But the minstrel is smart enough to find out that her handbag has been bugged, and once it's revealed, she too is mad at Batman, and they plan his new caper, High C, which even the henchmen are even worried about, saying it could get out of hand, and the minstrel says, so what? It's their world. He doesn't care if it gets out of hand, which shows just how really crazy he's willing to go. And essentially, he tells them to go to the stock exchange. When they get there, the stock exchange building begins to shake, but only the building, not the road. And it turns out the minstrel has because of his technological genius and his basically ability for sound waves, has managed to make the building vibrate, and essentially threatens to destroy the building unless they pay the ransom. However, Batman comes up with a counter method to possibly prevent this, and they're hesitant to go along with it, but they decide to anyway. That night, as they set up the plan to essentially prevent the minstrel from shaking, we see that the minstrel is secretly in the building, disguised as one of the shareholders. And I like how he walks past everyone, and they say, and it's like they don't notice him. Again, does really wearing glasses really fool people? Well, if it works for Superman, I guess it'll work for anyone. Anyway, just as that's happening, Batman turns off all the power precisely at the right time, but the power suddenly turns itself back on, and the building begins to shake and vibrate. Suddenly, the news turns on with the minstrel throwing out another threat, and they give up. They realize they've been defeated and given to the minstrel's demands. However, it turns out Batman managed to find out the stockholder is the minstrel, exposes him, and one last bat fight. And I will admit, this bat fight is one of my favorite of the series, with another unique, different song to go to it. Honestly, I feel that this is perhaps one of the best choreographed fights of the entire series. It's even almost on par with the Mad Hatter fight scene from season 1. Eventually, the Batman and Robin end the fight victoriously, and the minstrel tries to pull off the same trick that he used to blind them in the part 1, only to have that pretty much completely backfire on it. and he is essentially taken away. We cut back to Wayne Manor, where the minstrel on the news threatens a jailbreak and to eliminate Batman and Robin once and for all. And Harriet believes there is still some good in that man, and pretty much convinces Bruce to do a sort of, to help reform the minstrel. And that's where we end our episode. And for next week's villain, Batman and Robin will battle King Tut. Everything's just so far better in this episode. First off, I gotta admit, Batman and Robin here really had to really up their A game to really outthink Minstrel, which I like. Chief O'Hara having a little bit of doubt on Batman is kind of out of left field, but it's good to see Gordon still standing by Batman's side. And the little scenes that Alfred and Eddie and Harriet have are pretty solid too. But of course, like in the previous one, the best standout of this episode was the Minstrel. Van Jones was perfectly casted for this role. He has this goofy persona, but like I said, deep down there's something dark and sinister, and I like how he went full plan. He doesn't care how crazy it is or how out of control it gets if it fits his purposes. And honestly, holding the stock exchange for ransom and threatening to pretty much destroy the building with everyone inside is a pretty damn diabolical way to go. I always liked this villain, even though he only had one shot. I've always liked him, despite his goofy appearance. Now, people often ask, and honestly, this villain should have been brought back, at least for another round. But why didn't he be brought back? Well, you see, Adam West felt that some of the villains that they had to go up against in Season 2 in the early half were, in his opinion, some of the weakest villains of the show. And he said that he felt that with the Minstrel. I disagree. I felt these episodes were well written, and the Minstrel was such a great and interesting character. He really should have had another round. And that's why he never returned, even though these episodes were to pretty much set him up as a mainstay in this show's rogues gallery. For me, he should have at least made another appearance. And if he did, the Archer should have come back as well. For me, this guy just looked like he was not yet done with Batman. In fact, he had one more round to go. And he could have easily been brought back to be a little less goofy, a bit more serious, and a little less cocky. That's why I've always liked the Minstrel. He really felt that this guy was really cocky. And even though there was a little bit of respect for Batman, he always felt himself as the superior person. Again, some traits similar with the Riddler. But he's more of a technological genius. He doesn't prefer to do fist fights and prefers his henchmen to do it. And he's also a bit of a ladies' man. Again, the Minstrel, for me, is a really underrated villain and should have come back for one more round. Barbecue Batman is a good part 2. Interesting fact about these two things of episodes, the titles don't rhyme, which I think is the first time in the series where they broke that formula of the episodes, rhyming. The death trap of Batman and Robin being roasted alive is one of the most iconic of the series. And the fight scene at the end is pretty legendary, and for me, a really interesting villain with a very different and unique motivations. Honestly, perhaps one of some of the best writing that this season did. I really wish that the Minstrel should have come back. Honestly, it was just felt like a missed opportunity, and that's why he was never, and because he only really made one appearance, he was never in my top 10, but he is an honorable mention. He is really a fun villain, and Van Jones did him phenomenally. And there we have it, Barbecue Batman. Honestly, the Minstrel's two-parter are for me some of my favorite episodes of the series, and nothing really tops that. Join us next time when Batman and Robin once again face King Tut. So tune in next time for the same Steven hour, the same Steven time, the same Steven channel, and ladies and gentlemen, so long for now.